What's your value? Why can't you supervise from a desk in Washington or Tajikistan? Sir, the agreement between the U.S. attorney here in Washington, the court says, what up? What? Speak up. The agreement here between the U.S. attorney here in Washington, D.C. was I was going to be a member of the trial team. And Judge Hughes says, that's not my agreement. I've got to get stuff done. And the concept that you keep saying I'm a member of the trial team, have you ever cross-examined a witness? Yes, sir. Where? I was a defender in Miami for 9 years. Were you a public defender? Yes, sir. Are you going to take a witness? I imagine so. Judge Hughes, I don't. You don't know anything about trying a case. You have two lawyers. A federal judge is telling the now director of the FBI, you don't know anything about trying the case. You have two lawyers. The government has 117 lawyers over in the Wells Fargo building, which is right down the street. What do you supply that none of them can supply? I don't believe I'm any better. So what's the utility of coming here, having the people of America fly you down here at their expense, eat at their expense, and stay at their expense when there are plenty of capable other people over here in this room? You don't add a bit of value. Now, I've been a lawyer a long time. I've had my ass chewed a few times, but not like this. And at the end of it, he says, Judge Hughes, look at bottom left. You can't even articulate where you bring this to where we don't have two lawyers already assigned to it. You may be excused. Basically threw him out of chambers, and then the judge issues an order of ineptitude. I've been a lawyer a long time. I've tried cases in lots of places. I've never seen anything close to this. And here is Judge Hughes's order. Order on ineptitude. I've never even heard of that. That's like getting kicked out of Guns N' Roses. That is hard to do. If the pretentious lawyers from, quote, Maine, close quote, justice knew what they were doing, or had the humility to ask for help from the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Texas, it would not have taken 3 days, 7 telephone calls, 3 voicemail message, and 1 snippy electronic message for them to directly ask the court for assistance in ordering a transcript. The Washington lawyers could have looked at the court.
That was a roast of all roasts. For those of you that are just joining, this is the Weekend Review. I'm your hostess, Lise, and it feels so good to be back conversing with you virtually, that is. Let's play that one more time. Again, this is in reference to FBI Director Kash Patel and his partying during the Winter Men's Hockey Olympic win. Again, congratulations to them. That's not the problem. It's the optics afterwards. And we'll listen to another clip.
I've never met Kash Patel although after this gets posted, I might.
Fan of the show, Kash Patel.
With a grand jury subpoena or an indictment. But I do know many years ago when he was with Maine Justice, there was a case going on here in Houston that was prosecuted by 2 or 3 very competent AUSAs, very respected. And Patel showed up, interjected himself more or less into the case at a time when he probably shouldn't have. There was a judge by the name of Lynn Hughes. Lynn Hughes is retired now. But full disclosure, Lynn Hughes was not a fan of Maine Justice, so I guess Patel has that excuse. But he shows up in chambers without a suit, without a tie. So he walks in, and here's the transcript. The judge says, "What's your role in this?" And Patel says, "I'm a member of the trial team from the counterterrorism section." Judge Hughes, You're not a member of the trial team. It's been going on for a month and you haven't been here. And Judge Hughes, where's your tie? Where's your suit? Now, let's think about this. This guy is a lawyer from Maine Justice and comes into the chambers of a federal judge without a suit and without a tie. And and at some point, he says, well, I'm here to help the locals. And Judge Hughes says he doesn't need help. That's why McIntyre, another good lawyer or a good lawyer, and he says, the last thing I need here, Patel, is a bureaucrat who flies down here and causes trouble than actually is a productive member of the team. Next page. Hughes says, look at this. Judge Hughes has to tell Kash Patel, who's a grown-ass man, probably 35 at the time this is happening, if you want to be a lawyer, dress like a lawyer. I will, sir, and act like a lawyer. But what is it that Washington needs people to report? I want to know what your contribution is other than reading what happens and hearing what happens and then talking. What's your value? Why can't you supervise from a desk in Washington or Tajikistan? Sir, the agreement between the U.S. attorney here in Washington, the court says, what up? What? Speak up. The agreement here between the U.S. attorney here in Washington, D.C. was I was going to be a member of the trial team. And Judge Hughes says, that's not my agreement. I've got to get stuff done. And the concept that you keep saying I'm a member of the trial team, have you ever cross-examined a witness? Yes, sir. Where? I was a defender in Miami for 9 years. Were you a public defender? Yes, sir. Are you going to take a witness? I imagine so. Judge Hughes, I don't. You don't know anything about trying a case. You have two lawyers. A federal judge is telling the now director of the FBI, you don't know anything about trying the case. You have two lawyers. The government has 117 lawyers over in the Wells Fargo building, which is right down the street. What do you supply that none of them can supply? I don't believe I'm any better. So what's the utility of coming here, having the people of America fly you down here at their expense, eat at their expense, and stay at their expense when there are plenty of capable other people over here in this room? You don't add a bit of value. Now, I've been a lawyer a long time. I've had my ass chewed a few times, but not like this. And at the end of it, he says, Judge Hughes, look at bottom left. You can't even articulate where you bring this to where we don't have two lawyers already assigned to it. You may be excused. Basically threw him out of chambers, and then the judge issues an order of ineptitude. I've been a lawyer a long time. I've tried cases in lots of places. I've never seen anything close to this. And here is Judge Hughes's order. Order on ineptitude. I've never even heard of that. That's like getting kicked out of Guns N' Roses. That is hard to do. If the pretentious lawyers from, quote, Maine, close quote, justice knew what they were doing or had the humility to ask for help from the United States Attorney for the Southern District of Texas, it would not have taken 3 days, 7 telephone calls, 3 voicemail messages, and 1 snippy electronic message for them to directly ask the court for assistance in ordering a transcript. The Washington lawyers could have looked at the court.
Now we're going to NBC News, where, again, to be prudent and responsible, I'm going to say these are unconfirmed reports that President Donald Trump was not too happy and critical of the actions of FBI Director Kash Patel. Let's listen to this audio clip, again, courtesy of NBC News.
'News. NBC News exclusive report. President Trump expressing his disappointment in FBI Director Kash Patel over his behavior at the Winter Olympics, according to a person familiar with the matter. You remember this, Patel facing scrutiny for that locker room celebration with the U.S. men's hockey team after they won the gold medal. I want to bring in our Gabe Gutierrez, who has more on this reporting. This is a Kash Patel call your office kind of moment, huh?
Yeah, no kidding, Allie. You know, this is all related, as you suggested, to that video of FBI Director Patel partying in that locker room with the U.S. men's hockey team, including chugging beer after they won gold. Now, President Trump told Patel he was disappointed in his behavior. That's according to a person familiar with the matter. Now, the president, who does not drink, said he was also unhappy with Patel's use of government aircraft for the trip. The FBI declined to comment. Patel previously said, Hallie, that he was in Italy for official meetings with Italian law enforcement and that the hockey team invited him to celebrate. An FBI spokesperson said the president has full confidence in his administration, touting falling crime rates, Hallie.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News.
So that was, again, a clip courtesy of NBC News, and I'm going to replay that again. Now, keep in mind, some of these sources may not be accurate, but this is what's being reported by NBC News.
NBC News exclusive report. President Trump expressing his disappointment, according to a person familiar with the matter. You remember this, Patel facing scrutiny for that locker room celebration with the U.S. men's hockey team after they won the gold medal. I want to bring in our Gabe Gutierrez, who has more on this reporting. This is a Kash Patel call your office kind of moment, huh?
Yeah, no kidding, Allie. You know, this is all related, as you suggested, to that video of FBI Director Patel partying in that locker room with the U.S. men's hockey team, including chugging beer after they won gold. Now, President Trump told Patel he was disappointed in his behavior. That's according to a person familiar with the matter.
So again, you can listen to that at NBC News. And again, you have to be kind of leery where they say, according to someone close to the matter. But we're going to grab a few comments. One says, wannabe sports star Kash Patel. Big Mad says, $15,000 every takeoff. Albert says, who's the dumbest FBI director of all time? Mary Jennings says, he never should have had that position in the first place. I absolutely agree with that. He is abusing his job and spending money that doesn't belong to him. The money belongs to the taxpayers. They get richer while American people get poor. Now, again, I had a couple of people in my comment section talking about Biden and Obama. Well, Obama attended an all-star game, and watch the difference. Watch the difference in the decorum and the level of class.
He's even cool with the ball, Commander. Look, just walking like what about this? No, actually, I think exactly what he said was, that's what I know. I got it.
Your thoughts and opinions. Was Kash Patel wrongly under the magnifying glass of scrutiny for his antics? Or was he justified for the scrutiny received for his antics? Your thoughts and opinions. I'll give you a couple of moments to engage for those of you who wish to engage with your comments. Okay. Again, Kash Patel under scrutiny for his antics at the Olympics. Again, congratulations to the men's ice hockey team. But again, in my opinion, it just was not a very good look. And there could be other issues coming down the pike. So, next we're going to look at Don Lemon. Don Lemon, as you know, has been under fire for the accusations and allegations of he and others storming a worshiping service. He was arrested and back and forth with court and motions. This week, however, he was sued. Again, he was sued by a parishioner who added into her complaint emotional distress. I want you all, number one, to think about if this is going to be a hallmark blueprint of other members of this particular church who was at the church on the day of this, and I'm just going to say in quotes, this storming or interruption of worshiping services. Give you a couple of moments to think about that, and then we'll listen to some audio. Again, welcome to the Weekend Review. I'm your hostess, Lise, and it's so good to be back with you again. This is courtesy of The Hill. Again, The Hill. We're going to listen to a snippet of it and come back with your thoughts.
So the church service last month is now suing Don Lemon, claiming she suffered emotional distress as a result of the anti-ICE protest that broke out inside the church.
In a court document first obtained by TMZ, and Duchette alleges that.
Why does it seem like TMZ is the first to receive everything? And I mean just about everything. But let's continue.
Don Lemon and other protesters unlawfully interfered with her ability to, quote, freely exercise her religion in a private place of worship.
Ducett claims she suffered severe emotional distress, fear.
Severe emotional distress. Now, I'm not going to downplay what she feels as though she experienced. I am no position to do that. I can't do that. But my question is, well, my thought is, a lot of times when you have one to come forward and bring litigation of this nature, there may be others that will follow. So perhaps that'll be a poll question. Do you think after this, others will come forward as well? Let's continue.
Anxiety and trauma. Court documents allege Don Lemon appeared to take satisfaction in the disruption as he live streamed the incident.
Video surfaced online in January that shows anti-ICE demonstrators disrupting service at the city's church in St. Paul, Minnesota. They confronted the pastor, whom the protesters alleged was connected to ICE. Demonstrators were chanting, quote, "ICE out" and "Justice for Renee Good." Lemon, who was arrested by federal officials late January, civil rights charges of conspiracy and interfering with the First Amendment of rights of worshipers. This came after a 37-year-old U.S. citizen and mother of three, Renee Good, was fatally shot during an encounter by an ICE officer in.
So again, you can find that full video on The Hill entitled Don Lemon Sued for Emotional Distress After an Anti-ICE Protest. I'm going to grab a few comments here because I do not engage in being biased. BMass says, Lindsay, you can hear him participating in the chants. My God, it's like listening to a brick wall sometimes. Regina says, Don Lemon repeatedly said on tape, trauma is part of the process. She continues with, too bad, too sad. I hope he pays. I believe that is the sentiment of many. A few more comments. With all of the church incidents, I'll just say that, any sane person would be fearful of their lives. Absolutely. Let us not forget about Dylan Root, who went into a South Carolina church some years ago during Bible study. Now, even though it was a little bit different, he took the lives of 9 people. 9 people. Let's not forget about that, because trust me, I'm not going to let you forget about that. Next. BB, what a username, says the moment he learned they were going to a church, he was guilty because he wasn't covering it as a journalist. He was hiding the location from his audience so no one could call the police to intercept the protesters and prevent the crime. Interesting perspective. Your thoughts and feelings on that. And Raiders even says another thing, he hasn't talked about this in his episode, is that he broadcast images of individuals without their permission. He should be paying out of the nose for this. So, your thoughts and opinions on that. And this lawsuit. Will it go anywhere? Will it be tossed out? Or will others join? Your thoughts and opinions. And we'll listen to one more quick clip. And this is courtesy of Sky News Australia. Again, Sky News Australia.
Activist and sometime actress comic Rosie O'Donnell, her daughter Chelsea has made headlines after she was accused of touching a man's genitals without his permission leading to her being thrown behind bars and her probation for various other offences being terminated. Kinsey, what more can you tell me about this case?
Wow. Rosie O'Donnell's daughter, as you could hear, seems as though she's gotten herself in a little trouble. So we're going to get to Don Lemon.
Lemon and his entourage has filed a lawsuit against the journalist and the other protesters, saying they caused her to suffer severe emotional distress. What more can you tell me about this one, Kinsey?
Well, we're going to have to wait and see what happens here, obviously. But the woman claims Dawn acted with a group of protesters and that one protester admitted on social media to assisting Dawn with logistics and local contacts in support of the operation. According to the papers, Dawn appeared to take satisfaction in the disruption as he live streamed the event. I feel like we could see that for ourselves, but he won't be taking satisfaction if he has to declare bankruptcy over this drama. Hopefully it makes him, take more accountability of his actions going forward.
And that is something that a lot of people have mentioned, those that support Don Lemon, that his pockets will be targeted. So grab a few comments. Bunghole says, terrorizing people worshiping in a protected place of worship is not protesting, it's terrorism. Tavdina says, great news. Church and every member in it should sue him. SCW says, sue the out of limit, the cash cow. And Gerard says, keep him tied up in court for years. And the foreman says, claiming addiction is not an excuse or pass for abhorrent behavior. One last comment. Deborah says, when Lemon stormed the church with his agitators, the church members didn't know who they were or if they had weapons to delete them. Now, I'm not really sure if that's 100% accurate, but as I mentioned, you cannot downplay what someone else may feel or experience during that time. Could some of this be fluff? Possibly. Are these real feelings that these worshipers felt? I'm sure some may have, especially given the fact of the climate there and all that has happened and continues to happen. Your thoughts and opinions while we take a quick break. Some of you may want to grab some tea or some coffee or some juice. I'm going to grab a cup of tea because I am slowly getting over a cold, which actually, unbeknownst to me, until the latter part of the week, as I continue to work and still work, it turned into a slight case of pneumonia. Nothing really major. I've had pneumonia back to back for years and years. I have a chronic medical condition, which unfortunately has attacked my lungs, and the medication I'm on completely suppressed my immune system, which is good where my cells don't fight one another. But if there is a strong bug or virus out there, it's a possibility, depending upon how strong it is, I may catch it. And I have been doing good for over a year since I was in the hospital. So just slightly under the weather, but I'm not in the hospital. I worked all week, and was able to put up a few videos, and I'm here with you Saturday. So we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to go fire up the tea kettle, get some ginger tea in, and we'll return with Another story that has been the face of immigration, something that President Donald Trump has championed for during his campaign bid. And that is the case of Kilmar Garcia. So we shall return after that. And your thoughts and opinions thus far on the two topics we've covered. That's Kash Patel and Don Lemon. Welcome to the Weekend Review. I'm your hostess, Lise, and we shall return shortly. we are back. We are back. Hopefully, everyone has had a nice little break. And we're going to talk about the killer Armando Abrega Garcia case. And we'll put him back on the screen really quickly. Now, for those of you familiar with this case, in brief summary, he is a Maryland resident, not a U.S. citizen, who was, by the government's admission, mistakenly deported back to his country, El Salvador. Now, there has been a barrage of fights backwards and forth in court. Number one, to determine what country he should be deported, and questions on the logistics and preparation for that. In Greenbelt, Maryland, where the Honorable Judge Paula Zenas, on the 17th of February, I believe, ordered that he could not be redetained, and his court case that was scheduled for January but had to be reset because of the weather took place on the 26th and is in the hands of Tennessee Judge the Honorable Waverly Crenshaw to decide whether or not that this prosecution is vindictive. Last week, the 20th, for those of you that had the opportunity, if not, it's on my video bucket. I spoke with Judge Joe Brown about what is a vindictive prosecution, the bar that needs to be set to actually be successful in these types of cases. And according to a source out in Tennessee, I was given the word last night that no ruling has been made, that in fact the Honorable Judge Waverly Crenshaw wants more written briefs where he will either decide or schedule another hearing. So this is a brief snippet of the conversation that I had with Judge Joe Brown. And Judge Joe Brown has this wonderful barbecue sauce. I've actually purchased it, and I made some vegan meatballs with it. It was absolutely divine. Those of you who are interested in purchasing it, you can go to his website, jjb.com. Again, jjb.com, and you can put it on your greens, your barbecue. The weather is about to change. It may have, depending upon where you are. So again, for those of you that love barbecue, you may want to taste or at least sample this sauce. Basically, Mr. Crenshaw, or the Honorable Judge Crenshaw, has to weigh whether or not there is vindictive prosecution. And he's hinted that there's a likelihood of that. Explain what that means. Hinted. Does that mean he might be swaying towards that?
In this case, it wouldn't really make any difference because it, as I said, would be quickly moving up. We have to, what you're looking at is essentially a preliminary matter that sets the foundation for what happens later. Vindictive prosecution means somebody is singling, well, a prosecutorial authority is singling out somebody to persecute rather than prosecute. It means that somebody, for reasons that are prohibited by the Bill of Rights, somebody is using the criminal authority of the United States, criminal prosecutorial authority, for purposes other than.
So again, that was the Honorable Judge Joe Brown, who was speaking briefly on this case. Again, the full video is in my video bucket. However, the government seemed to have run into a snag where they didn't have the best of the best to testify. And as the witnesses were grilled in the Maryland court proceedings, I know this because I was there. I was 5-10 feet away from the Honorable Judge Paula Zenas, who asked basic questions and the government's witness could not answer. Not only that, there's a short that I put up that basically states one of the prosecutors said that they knew that by waiting as long as they did, it may be viewed as vindictive. Now, this could go either way. It is my honest opinion that somehow, some way, they may find a way to deport this man. Again, I am not in the robe and behind the desk. The issue is a matter of due process, and if the government is angry because Kilmar Garcia appears, understand what I'm saying, appears to have been winning thus far. There were people like Pam Bondi, Caroline Levitt, who said that he would never come back to the United States. Well, he actually did, and he scored a couple of wins. But how long is this going to last? There's a criminal case, which is why the evidentiary hearing on the 26th was held in Tennessee. And this goes back to a 2022 traffic stop where there are clips of that, and I would implore you to conduct your own meticulous, thorough research where it appears that he had others in his vehicle and some other issues. But the Tennessee State Trooper let him go with just a warning. Ironically, the prosecutor said she came across it the day after or some days after seeing it on social media and thought that they should look into this. That was back in 22. This is 2026. So without further delay, let us listen to another one of my favorites on YouTube. His name is Glenn Kirshner. And a lot of these people that I refer you to, they're either former prosecutors, lawyers, and they have intellect and experience in this type of conversation. So again, the voice you will now hear is that of Glenn Kirshner, and he'll be discussing the evidentiary hearing of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Again, welcome to the Week in Review. I'm your hostess, Lise. Please, if you would be so kind, remember to double tap your screens, or depending upon the device that you're listening to, you consider giving this a thumbs up. If you're new, welcome, and please consider subscribing. I thank each and every one of you.
Garcia has been fighting the Trump administration and Trump's dirty DOJ leadership for nearly a year now, ever since he was snatched up.
Now, let me just say this. It was, I cannot tell you the exact date, but it was March of 2025 when this all began. In 2025, the early part, I believe, of 2025. So let's continue to listen to Glenn Kirshner.
Unconstitutionally stuffed on a plane and sent to a prison in El Salvador, even though he had been convicted of no crime. Ever since he was deprived of his constitutional rights nearly a year ago, he has been fighting.
Yes, as a teenager, he fled his country of El Salvador for fear of his life relating to issues there and gangs. He started his life here. He married, what reports say, as an American woman and has a family. And they have put him in the box of being a gang member and a human smuggler. And this is where the fight has continued. We had government officials that traveled to El Salvador, which a Maryland residents. I'm a Maryland resident, angry because of taxpayer money funded to take that trip. The issue is they gave him a work visa, and because of his status, he was not supposed to be deported back to El Salvador. Because he was, that is why the government had to say that it was by error. So let's continue to listen to Glenn Kirshner.
He's been defeating Trump's dirty DOJ leadership every step of the way. And today, Abrego was back in court, this time in Tennessee, in his criminal case that was brought against him by the Trump administration, in which he filed a motion to dismiss his case based on Trump's vindictive prosecution. Well, today was the big hearing, the evidentiary hearing at which government officials testified, and they were cross-examined. Boy, were they cross-examined by Abrego's lawyers.
Now, let me just say, I met one of his lawyers, Mr. Sandoval. He has a very strong legal team. I cannot tell you what the outcome will be. I work for attorneys, and some of them have had slam dunk cases. However, minor deficiencies, little integral things that one would think would not be important, has changed many of their cases where, as I mentioned, on the surface, slam dunk, but minor technicalities, and lawyers savvy enough to catch those and able to have the judge look at it, slam dunk. Well, they were no longer slam dunks. So let's keep that in mind. You can have everything together, you can be right, but there's still things that have to be followed out in its entirety. And one small mistake, a lot of people may say or poo-poo, well, that was minor. They meant such and such. That's not how it works. That's not how it works in a court of law, what they meant. No, you have to be specific. It's like, I'll give a quick example. When you put together a subpoena is an order from the court, and most subpoenas, some people in the upper echelon for some reason or another think they're above having to be served those, but most subpoenas are to be served personally, meaning you have to give it to the person with whose name is on that document. And if they don't appear and do not reach out to the attorney or the court, a bench warrant for an arrest could be issued. Subpoenas are different than a summons. Subpoenas are actually orders to appear, or you could have a subpoena ducis tecum, where you don't have to appear personally, but you have to produce documents. So there's a difference there. An attorney had the wrong address, the wrong date of the court hearing on a subpoena. I pointed it out. I don't think that individual was too happy about it. I'm not a lawyer, I'm an investigator, but at the same time, I pride myself on what I do and to protect the integrity of the firm. And I said, this is deficient. And a judge could say, if the witness doesn't show up, the wrong date is on there and the wrong address is on there. That's a deficient document. And as a professional, if you know that it's deficient, you should not continue efforts to serve it. It is up to the attorney to correct those errors, because if someone receives it, even though they're aware of it, if it's not correct on that order from the court signed by the clerk, it is not enforceable. So let's continue.
Unfortunately for us, the great legal reporter Adam Klasfeld of All Rise News was in the courtroom. And at the conclusion of the hearing, he jumped on with us and gave us the blow-by-blow, told us exactly what went on in that court hearing today.
So this again is on Glenn Kirshner, but we're going to listen to a little bit of this. I had wanted to go earlier in January, but because of the snow and ice storm, those plans were nixed and I could not go.
Two witnesses, but Kilmar Abrego Garcia's attorneys made clear before this hearing ever began that bringing lower level people isn't going to cut it because it's the government's burden. Now, let me tell you what did happen. That's all the context for what happened.
So he is about to go in and share some of what he observed.
Happened today. Their testimony, Ms. Sode's testimony and Mr. McGuire's testimony, is they made an independent decision that was uncompromised, unsullied by Maine justice. Rana Sode said that she learned about this 2022 traffic stop that formed the basis of the smuggling allegations against Kilmar Abrego Garcia from a small local publication known as the Tennessee Star, a conservative publication, on April 21st. And it's apparently just a coincidence that that was after the Supreme Court's ruling ordering Abrego's return, that she found it from the media, she looked into it, and she passed it on to McGuire. That's her story.
Now, let me just do a hard stop right there. When I attended the court hearings in Greenbelt, Maryland earlier this year, the government brought on a witness who was absolutely horrible. His testimony, he actually testified that he only had 2 days to prepare, and the only thing he knew about this case was what he had heard on social media. Abrego's legal team grilled that man so bad, and I am not embellishing, that he had to ask the Honorable Judge Paula Zenas for a break so he could go outside and get a bottle of water. I watched him as he testified, and he literally appeared to be a little bit hot under the caller. And what I mean by that is it was evident he was not prepared for the line and level of questioning. And it was almost like a session of questions back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They did not let up on this man whatsoever. He just spoke about his resume and how long he had worked in that position. But simple questions. But what are your plans? Who have you spoken to? He could not or would not answer. So let's continue.
On McGuire's side of the ledger, he says that he brought the case because this case was brought to him by Ms. Sode. He looked into it. He made an independent decision. Sure, he communicated with Todd Blanche's deputy, but he was calling the shots. Then came cross-examination. First cross-examining attorney.
This is going to be interesting. So, again, pay close attention. And I understand why people say this. They do not want this man here. I get it. There have been a lot of people that have crossed over here illegally and have committed some of the most heinous crimes. One in particular is the case that I have covered and will be covering this month, well, March, if it isn't reset again. It is the case of 19-year-old Takara Thompson, who she was deleted by Hugo Hernandez Mendez, an alleged illegal from, I believe, Guatemala or Honduras. I want to say Guatemala. Anyway, that case is interesting too, because in April, allegedly, he was stopped by Park Police for DUI. Let go. He worked in Baltimore as a landscape professional. He and Takara Thompson, according to reports, ended up back at his home in Bowie, Maryland. She was found a week after she went missing, tossed over in an embankment like a piece of trash, and her remains were identified as that of Takara Thompson. He's being charged for first and second degree unaliving. I went to those proceedings as well. Again, the next hearing for that case is set for March, unless, as I mentioned, that is reset. So, for those of you who may say, you're supporting this? No, I'm supporting what is right. If you are illegal, you should pay. You should pay. If you're here legally and you commit crimes, and let's not turn a blind eye to those that are here legally in government positions that are committing crimes daily and having them covered up or covering them up. There should be no difference in Lady Justice, but Lady Justice wears a blindfold. Keep that in mind. Let's continue.
For Abrego was and Roscoe Dean. Now I'll tell you a little bit about Dean's background because it's important a little bit later. But he questioned Ms. Sode And he said that he pointed out that this Tennessee Star article followed nationwide coverage of the body cam footage of the 2022 traffic stop.
It absolutely did. You can type that in and you will see and hear the troopers speaking among themselves, stating that it looks like there's some smuggling going on. But again, there were no arrests. Abrego Garcia was let go, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there were issues with his license, his driver's license as well. Knowing all of this, they still let him go with a warning. But then, after his return to the United States, after being deported to El Salvador, they brought a criminal case for smuggling. You can't make this up. But let's continue.
On which this prosecution was based. That CNN had covered it. It'd been national news, and Donald Trump himself had commented on the video in kind of undermining her idea. Well, I read this article from the Tennessee Star that was forwarded to me. I don't know who forwarded it to me.
And that's the problem. That's the problem with the witnesses that the DOJ has put in position on this case. As I told you, I don't know about this one because I wasn't there in the courtroom, but I was there in the courtroom in Maryland, and that witness was horrible. He was not prepared and extremely nervous, and that is why the Honorable Judge Paula Zenas has blocked everything thus far that the DOJ has tried to do, because there are no straight answers. Keep in mind, Kilmar Abrego Garcia and his legal team has agreed to go to Costa Rica, but they need to know the plans. What are the logistics? Those are the questions that the witnesses, or the department, if you will, have not, at least at this time, have been able to articulate, to convince the judge that something is a little bit off here. Let's continue. Again, welcome to those that are just joining. Happy Saturday. Happy weekend.
And so that story doesn't make sense. On cross-examination of Robert McGuire, we heard from the former head of the Federal Defenders of New York, David Patton, because Kilmar Abrego Garcia has an all-star legal team. And what David Patton pointed out,
and I mentioned that earlier, I met one of them, had a brief conversation. That's on one of my shorts as well. Does that mean that he is not going to be deported? Absolutely not. But they absolutely can do that. But for now, ICE can't do anything. Keep in mind what I just said. For now, ICE cannot do anything. And as I mentioned, that this man has a strong legal team. Let's continue.
is that Robert McGuire was holding on to his job at a time of a nationwide purge of people inside the DOJ. There were the January 6th prosecutors. There were the special counsel prosecutors. There were the people in the Southern District of New York who resisted the dismissal of the case against Schrader, who believed that Kilmar Abrego Garcia should not be prosecuted, and resigned on the day that Kilmar Abrego Garcia was indicted. I don't want.
Now, that is very key. That resignation prior to, and that same individual has suggested that they not go forward with this. So let's just continue.
I want to break your flow because this is fascinating. What form did the evidence take, Adam, of Ben Schrader's, disagreement with the Abrego indictment?
So that came during the cross-examination and even to a certain extent during the direct examination of Rob McGuire. Now, Rob McGuire and Ben Schrader came out are friends. As a matter of fact, to this day, Rob McGuire has wonderful things to say about Ben Schrader, saying that he's a great prosecutor, he's an honorable man. He came to a different opinion about the merits of the case, and this came out today. This is news from today. He memorialized the reasons why he didn't think this case should be brought in a memo that he wanted to be passed to, quote, DC, because he knew that DC was keenly interested in this case and he wanted the reasons why he thought it shouldn't be brought forwarded to them. McGuire testified he did not forward the declination memo, but he passed on that Ben Schrader did not want this case to be brought. So that's one pretty big revelation. Another big revelation.
I'm sorry let me just interject in real time or I will forget. Ben Schrader used to be a prosecutor at my former office, the DC U.S. Attorney's Office.
So Glenn Kirshner, the voice that you hear, former prosecutor. I don't have fluff people that I present to you when I'm doing these live streams. I just want you to know that. They all have tenured or former tenured positions. Let's continue.
I think highly regarded, but let me tell you, I, over the course of my 30 years as a prosecutor, had plenty of disagreements, differing opinions within the U.S. Attorney's Office. Had anybody resign over a disagreement that we were having about tactics or strategy. So I find it pretty dramatic that when Ben Schrader, somebody highly regarded, I'll agree with Mr. McGuire here, resigned after, he was apparently overruled as the chief of the criminal division in the Middle District of Tennessee. At the time, he was overruled and Abrego was indicted. I find that to signal something more than just a disagreement over tactics.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have to agree with that 100%. You just don't up and say, okay, I'm out of here. Again, I don't know the specifics, but it has, as I've said many times before, an odor of mendacity here. But let's continue.
Strategy, but that's my 2 cents. Please continue.
Oh, absolutely. This wasn't, and to be clear, McGuire himself freely acknowledged that Ben Schrader didn't think the case should be brought because he didn't think there was a case. He thought that this was being brought for politically motivated reasons. Again,
That's being tossed around. There are many people are saying gang member, smuggler. Again, the proof and the witness that claimed that there's something sketchy, in my opinion, about that. But let's continue. Again, this is courtesy of Glenn Kirshner.
That was something that was previously reported but confirmed today in federal court by Rob McGuire. And as a matter of fact, he said that this was all memorialized in a memo that has that the day that he got the case, that Rob McGuire got this case, it was April 27th. It was after the Supreme Court said, bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia back to the United States. And it was maybe a couple of weeks after that. And Rob McGuire on Sunday, April 27th, he gets a case. Hours later, he receives an email on Sunday night from Todd Blanche's deputy, Akash Singh, informing him of the person who had become the key cooperating witness against Abrego. McGuire testified he didn't know about this witness until he received this Sunday night email.
And that is what I just mentioned. It appears, again, I could be wrong, but it appears that something was sketchy about this witness that, from my understanding, claims that he was aware that Kilmar Abrego Garcia was a smuggler and he was an associate. These are the, again, unconfirmed reports and allegations. Let's continue.
So take a moment to step back to what this means. On the one hand, you have McGuire saying, I made an independent judgment. I followed the facts wherever it led me. And on the other hand, he is saying, 2 hours before I learn of this case's existence, I am getting Todd Blanche's aide telling me who's going to become the lead cooperating witness against Abrego, a man that I never heard about. And he thinks that this information is so urgent, he sends it to me on a Sunday night. Another very significant part of the...
I smell something fishy. But again, let's continue.
Chronology, we learn on the day that Abrego is indicted, secretly behind the grand jury, that's when Schrader resigns. And on the day that Abrego is brought into the United States for prosecution, McGuire receives a phone call from Todd Blanche that's essentially an attaboy. He congratulated him. He thanked him for bringing the case. And you had McGuire saying, oh, that's pretty standard. And what he's calling standard is getting a call from the Deputy Attorney General thanking him for bringing this case that was, according to him, only brought with his sober, independent judgment without any interference from main justice. So what we have here...
So let me just say, I part ways with the opinion that that was pretty standard, that the upper echelons, the highest reaches of the Department of Justice leadership, but for the Attorney General herself, the Deputy Attorney General, the number 2 person, Todd Blanche, who also happens to be a former criminal defense attorney for the President of the United States, would just, be providing information, or his, chief of staff or his principal deputy, was that Singh?
Singh, yes.
Yeah, would just, be dropping emails on a Sunday night about a cooperating witness in a... case based on a traffic stop. Listen, I don't know how gullible they believe Judge Waverly Crenshaw is, but let me say, I look forward to Judge Crenshaw making all important credibility findings about the testimony of the witnesses in this case.
Absolutely so. You can find the video in its entirety on the page of Glenn Kirshner. I'll have it in my description box, and we're going to grab some comments. The worrying thing is that there are thousands of Abrego Garcias who are currently being held in detention centers in terrible conditions all over America. That came from Bonnie. Papa Don says, thank you, Glenn, and thank you, Adam, for keeping us informed. Your work is very important and appreciated. Stephanie says, what a waste of taxpayers' money on this ridiculous DOJ lie. Next. Scroll down. Now, a lot of people are going to poo poo on this comment, but I'm going to read it anyway. Abrego Garcia is a true American hero. Again, I read all comments whether I agree or disagree. Thomas says, CCOT is not a prison, it's an extermination camp. And Christie says, this is a compelling case to say the least. The passion for law is so evident in your conversation. Thank you both for your good, honest work. And let's grab a couple more. Resisting a subpoena. If I or you were subpoenaed to appear before a court of law and we didn't show, the judge would immediately issue a bench warrant for our arrest. Wow, that is from Privacy Valued. Now, keep in mind, I didn't see these comments prior to my commentary earlier when I spoke about subpoenas. Again, I know a little bit. I know a little bit, and I've said this and I've shown it so many times, but kudos to me. And the last comment is Ingrid. Ingrid says, this is freaking ridiculous to go on and on and on. He needs to sue this administration. When this regime latches onto anything, they won't admit to wrongdoing. So, your thoughts and opinions on the evidentiary hearing that just took place on Friday. And it's in the hands of the Honorable Judge Waverly Crenshaw in Tennessee, where he has actually asked for additional written briefs and will decide whether or not to rule to throw this criminal case out or to actually schedule a hearing. I learned of this through my contact there in Tennessee. Again, the Honorable Judge Joe Brown and I had a conversation about this, and then I posted a video that we talked about that. The whole conversation, of course, is not on there. Everything that we speak about, it's not for publication, but that part we did discuss, and it was about vindictive prosecution. What is the bar for that? There's some case law out there. These are difficult to actually have success with, but earlier reports did indicate that the Honorable Judge Waverly Crenshaw was leaning towards, or at least hinting, as I mentioned, in speaking with Judge Joe Brown, that he was leaning with the possibility of a vindictive prosecution. So we are going to pivot to none other than the state of address that many eyes were on earlier this week. This is the Weekend Review. I'm your hostess, Lise. Welcome, and all comments are welcome. I just ask that you are respectful. This should be interesting. We're going to listen to some audio of that, and we'll continue. Again, happy weekend. Happy Saturday.
When I last spoke in this chamber 12 months ago, I had just inherited a nation in crisis with a stagnant economy, inflation at record levels, a wide open border, horrendous recruitment for military and police, rampant crime at home, and wars and chaos all over the world. But tonight, it is indeed a turnaround for the ages.
And you see a lot of people that were giving the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, a standing ovation early on at the beginning of his address of the State of the Union.
And we will never go back to where we were just a very short time ago. We're not going back. Today, our border is secure. Thank you. Today, our border is secure. Our spirit is restored. Inflation is plummeting. Incomes are rising fast. The roaring economy is roaring like never before. And our enemies are scared. Our military and police are stacked. And America is respected again, perhaps like never before.
And there's another standing ovation.
After 4 years in which millions and millions of illegal aliens poured across our borders, totally unvetted and unchecked, we now have the strongest and most secure border in American history by far. In the past 9 months, 0 illegal aliens have been admitted to the United States.
Now, I don't know how accurate that is, but let's continue. This is courtesy of NBC. Now,
of 2025, it was down to 1.7%. Gasoline, which reached a peak of over $6 a gallon in some states under my predecessor, it was quite honestly a disaster, is now below $2.30 a gallon in most states, and in some places, $1.99 a gallon. And when I visited the great state of Iowa just a few weeks ago, I even saw $1 and
you don't see it here in Maryland. I can tell you that, Mr. President, respectfully.
85 cents a gallon for gasoline. Mortgage rates are the lowest in 4 years and falling fast, and the annual cost of a typical new mortgage is down almost $5,000 just since I took office. 1 year.
Again, there are some people that may not agree with that. Others will. Let's continue. Let's advance this a little bit.
Increases to hurt the people instead. But we held strong, and with the great, big, beautiful bill, we gave you no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. And we also made interest on auto loans tax deductible the first time, but only if the car is made in America. Recently in Pennsylvania, I met Megan Hemhauser, a devoted mom who's homeschools her children, beautiful, 2 children, during the day while waiting tables at night as her husband works overtime, operating very heavy equipment. Megan is here this evening, and she's happy to tell you that she is so much richer because with no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and her expanded child tax credit done again by Republicans, Megan and her husband will take home more than $5,000 extra just for the year, cutting her tax bill in more than half.
Okay, so we're going to advance this a little bit more.
Money. We have millions and millions of people because the stock market has done so well, setting all those records. Your 401ks are way up. Yet half of all of working Americans still do not have access to a retirement plan with matching contributions from an employer. To remedy this gross disparity, I'm announcing that next year my administration will give these oft-forgotten American workers, great people, the people that built our country, access to the same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker. We will match your contribution with up to $1,000 each year as we ensure that all Americans can profit from a rising stock market. Let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information. They stood up for that. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Did Nancy Pelosi stand up if she was here? Counted. Pass the Stop Insider Trading Act without delay. I wasn't sure if anybody, even on this side, was going to applaud for that. I'm very impressed. Thank you. I'm very impressed. But when it comes to the corruption that is plundering, it's plundering America. There's been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community have pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. We have all the information.
Okay, this is where it gets a little bit spicy. Again, this is the State of the Union, and this is the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump speaking. Again, this is the Weekend Review. I'm your hostess, Lise. Happy Saturday. Happy weekend.
And in actuality, the number is much higher than that. And California, Massachusetts, Maine, and many other states are even worse. This is the kind of corruption that shreds the fabric of a nation, and we are working on it like you wouldn't believe. So tonight, although started 4 months ago, I am officially announcing the war on fraud to be led by our great Vice President J.D. Vance.
Okay, I want you to get a good glimpse right here. This is priceless.
We'll get it done. And if we're able to find enough of that fraud, we will actually have a balanced budget overnight. It'll go very quickly. That's the kind of money you're talking about. We'll balance our budget. The Somali pirates who ransacked Minnesota remind us that there are large parts of the world where bribery, corruption, and lawlessness are the norm, not the...
And the cameras have been panned on Ilmar Omar.
exception. Importing these cultures through unrestricted immigration and open borders brings those problems right here to the USA. And it is the American people who pay the price in higher medical bills, car insurance rates, rent, taxes, and perhaps most importantly, crime. We will take care of this problem. We're going to take care of this problem. We are not playing games. Delilah.
So President Trump said, we are not playing games.
Delilah Colton was only 5 years old in June 2024 when a 18-wheel tractor trailer plowed into her stopped car traveling at 60 miles an hour or more. The driver was an illegal alien let in by Joe Biden and given a commercial driver's license by open borders politicians in California. Doctors said Delilah would never be able to walk or talk, have a good life. She wouldn't even be able to eat again. But against all odds, she is now in the first grade learning to walk. And she's here this evening with her dad, Marcus, a fantastic man. Delilah, please, you are a great inspiration. Please stand up. Thank you, Delilah. Many, if not most, illegal aliens do not speak English and cannot read even the most basic road signs as to direction, speed, danger, or location. That's why tonight I'm calling on Congress to pass what we will call the Delilah Law, barring any state from granting commercial driver's licenses to illegal aliens.
Now, I don't want to bust anyone's bubble, but if you all would do some research, there was a story, and I'm going to say unconfirmed reports, that J.D. Vance was involved with something, that an injury came about. Again, those are unconfirmed reports. I don't think anyone involved was illegal, but again, do your research. Unconfirmed reports. Again, if I'm incorrect, I have no problem with returning to retract or update my statement. But let's continue, because there were some reports that came out, again, unconfirmed. Let's continue. But that is a good thing, the Delilah Law. The Delilah Law. I think that law should be extended to those that are here legally and have DUIs, but for some reason let go. Maybe because they know someone or are friends with someone or have contracts with someone. Let's continue.
And yesterday, as you probably saw at the White House, I hosted a ceremony with Americans who lost their treasured loved ones to the scourge of illegal immigration. People came into our country, how we allowed this to happen with our open borders. These are the angel moms and families that for decades our government betrayed and our media totally ignored. It was terrible. Hard to believe, actually. In 2023, a 16-year-old high school cheerleader named Elizabeth Medina was supposed to perform in her town's Christmas parade, but she never arrived. Her mother, Jacqueline, went home to look for her, and she found her lying dead in a bathtub, bleeding profusely after being stabbed 25 times. Elizabeth's killer was a previously arrested illegal alien who had broken in and brutally extinguished the brightest light in her family's life, violently and viciously. Her heartbroken mother is in the gallery to remind everyone in this chamber exactly why we are deporting illegal alien criminals to our country at record numbers, and we're getting them the hell out of here fast. We don't want them.
Okay, another standing ovation. We are at our second hour. We're going to take another brief intermission. For those of you that may have some things to attend to, we will be back momentarily. Again, this is the Weekend Review. I am your hostess, Lise. And again, happy weekend. Happy Saturday to one and to all. Again, we will return momentarily. And we are back. We are back with our segment of the weekend review. I am your hostess, Lise, and we're going to continue with the State of the Union with President Donald Trump speaking. Thank you so much for those of you that have tuned in and those of you that have been staying around all of this long time. I appreciate each and every one of you.
So, Andrew, while you're up, now I'm going to ask a highly respected General James Seward to present Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf and the great family of Sarah Beckstrom with the award created by our late great President George Washington himself. It's called the Purple Heart. We love you all. Love you. We're proudly restoring safety for Americans at home, and we are also restoring security for Americans abroad. Our country has never been stronger. My first 10 months, I ended 8 wars, including Cambodia. Isn't it funny? Sick people. Cambodia and Thailand, Pakistan and India would have been a nuclear war. 35 million people, said the Prime Minister of Pakistan, would have died if it were not.
Well, is he blinking because he has something in his eye? Or is he having a Sleepy Joe moment? Let's continue.
Not for my involvement. Kosovo and Serbia, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, Armenia and Azerbaijan, the Congo and Rwanda, and of course the war in Gaza, which proceeds at a very low level. It's just about there.
I did a short last night where I went over some breaking news where a lot of people did that. There are air raids in Bahrain, and it appears that the United States and Israel has engaged with Iran. So I'll be going over that at the latter part of this video.
I want to thank.
And I have been reporting and putting up shorts that I have seen many fighter jets, and I actually saw Air Force One yesterday. So I'm close to an Air Force base that, again, I have had conversations with people, and we said something intimate, and many people have. It was about to happen, and around, at least when I saw the news, it was early in the morning, the wee hours of the morning. A lot of people were going live and covering this. So that is going to be our closeout, but let's continue.
Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner for your help. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Jared. And I also want to thank the man they report to, Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Thank you, Marco. People like you. You know, Marco got 100% of the votes when he was in conference. I think our next one was about 54%. And some of the Democrats are now saying, I can't believe we approved that guy. And he said it's an honor that they feel that way, right, Marco? You have done a great job, great Secretary of State. I think he'll go down as the best ever. Under the ceasefire I negotiated, every single hostage, both living and dead, has been returned home. Can you believe that?
No, absolutely. I can't believe that. But if you say it to be true, then it must be true. So we're going to pivot now to what we heard, what many of us woke up to this morning. Courtesy of Fox News.
Declaring a special state of emergency across the country. Just moments ago, air raid sirens were sounding here in Israel's second largest city of Tel Aviv and across major population centers here in the Middle East, warning civilians to stay close to protected areas, to bomb shelters, understanding that in the minutes and hours ahead, Israel may come under direct Iranian attack. We are getting a new statement from Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz. He says, in part, the state of Israel has launched a preemptive strike against Iran.
So Israel had a preemptive strike against Iran. And in another video, we're going to shortly, another video courtesy of Fox News that says U.S. bases targeted after Iran missile stockpile revealed. Let's continue. Again, courtesy Fox News.
National security. Security correspondent Jennifer Griffin. She's at the Pentagon. Good morning, Jennifer.
Morning. Hi, Lawrence. I'm here in the DC Bureau, but I just want to point out that almost exactly 5 hours ago, we got the first alert that the Israeli missiles and the U.S. missiles had struck Iran. It was a joint operation from the get-go. I'm told that this operation will last not hours but days. This is an open-ended.
Again, the reports, and there have been several reports that this will indeed, at least that's what the projection is, to last at least several days. Again, this is courtesy of Fox News. And I'm going to grab some comments. Rising Phoenix says, can you imagine the amount of satellites facing that country right now, looking and watching? And Dale says, stealth refers to the radar signal. The sky is fast. The return signal is minuscule. Visual acquisition is possible if it is daytime and you are within 25 miles. And John says, did any of you not truly think the Iranian government would respond? Of course they're going to respond and fire off missiles. And he has 2 laughing emojis. And Rick Jensen says, the citizens need weapons. And Black Garden says, American-born Americans will never understand how it feels to live under those countries. Freedom is not free. So we're going to listen to a little bit more of this. You can find it on Fox News.
Operation with a wide variety of targets. I'm told from a senior U.S. military official that the U.S. is focusing on military targets, on ballistic missile sites, on anything that could pose an immediate threat on the Iranian Navy. But the Israelis are targeting Iran's leadership. So any of the targets that you hear about, the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei being targeted, the defense minister being targeted, those are being carried out by the Israelis. Let me mention some of the targets that we know were hit this morning in Tehran: the Defense Ministry, the Parliament, the National Supreme Council, the Ministry of Intelligence, the Iranian Atomic Energy Agency.
So there have been several airborne strikes that have taken place thus far in this operation, again, that is slated to last over the next few days, maybe longer, maybe shorter, but for now, it's been slated to last over the next few days. Let us continue. And again, welcome to the Weekend Review. I'm your hostess, Lise.
There have been cyber attacks across Iran, and the internet is not up and working, but the cyber attacks have focused on the news agencies like IRNA, which is the state-run television. The U.S. military has also targeted down in the south of the naval bases in Bandar Abbas, as well as in Kark Island. And then what's also interesting is out in the east of Iran, there's a target near Tabriz and Kermanshah, which is the IRGC aerospace forces. That's significant because that's where they would have been developing those long-range ballistic missiles, satellites that also could have been part of that intercontinental ballistic missile program that they were trying to develop that the president referenced. But the biggest...
So again, you can find that on Fox News. U.S. bases targeted after Iran missile stockpile revealed in the last video as it relates to this airstrike and preemptive strike is courtesy of BBC News. And it is entitled, What We Know About the Joint U.S.-Israel attack on Iran.
I'm Sherry. You're watching BBC News with live coverage of our breaking news this hour. The United States and Israel have launched airstrikes across Iran. President Trump says the US and Israel have launched what he called major combat operations. Mr. Trump says the objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime. He says Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, and he accuses the Republic of trying to rebuild its nuclear program. The president has also said there may be American casualties as a result of this operation, which has been dubbed Epic Fury by the Pentagon. The retaliation has started from Iran. Bahrain says the US base there has come under attack. Qatar, Kuwait, Jordan, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia have also had missiles fired into their countries. We're getting reports of one person killed in the United Arab Emirates and 4 people in Syria from missile debris. In a video statement, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said the attack is to remove an existential threat to his country. We've been hearing air raid sirens and explosions across Israeli cities. Israel's defense minister has declared a special and permanent state of emergency. They've closed the country's airspace, all schools are shut, and access to holy sites have also been shut today. Israeli defense forces say dozens of missiles are being fired into the country. 70,000 reservists have been called up. Meanwhile, in Iran, the strikes are across multiple locations. Media reports say blasts have been heard in Esfahan, Karaj, Kermanshah, Qom, and the port city of Bushehr. Mehrabad Airport, just outside Tehran, has come under attack. We're getting pictures of large-scale bombing in Tehran as well. Iranian media, as we've reported, say up to 40 people have been killed at a primary school in the south of the country. An official has told the Reuters news agency that Tehran's retaliation and response will be crushing. Meanwhile, Israeli officials say Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei and Iran's President Pezeshkian have been targeted. 7 missiles have hit the presidential palace, and there have been strikes around the Supreme Leader's compound. Well, the attack follows weeks of tension in the region, with US forces massing around Iran.
So we're going to catch a few comments here. Tunes says, humans are absolutely useless. Our species are as dysfunctional, as violent as ever. And Nasasha says, what kind of help is that by deleting 40 Iranian students? Prof says, no more wars, no more wars. Amy Hogarten says, money for war, but no money for health care. Vedic says, war is war. It could not remove any threat except multiply threats. Dennis Green says, defend the American people from what exactly? And Bright says, Epstein file holders will drive Trump to sink the entire empire. Your thoughts and opinions on this preemptive, what they're saying, preemptive strike thus far? Now, the last topic I want to discuss is none other than someone I've been eyeballing for a little while and have had questions about motives and if something is going on with Hakeem Jeffries. Here's another favorite podcast I like to listen to. It's called iHip News, and the title is Hakeem Jeffries Caught Funneling Secret AIPAC Money to Help Trump. Now, Hakeem Jeffries is the Senate Minority Leader, so this is very interesting. But for those of you that have been listening to Hakeem Jeffries, it seems as though he is one of many who dodges, or at least it appears that he dodges a lot of questions and keeps saying, make things affordable, make things affordable. But then his feet were held to the fire as it relates to AIPAC and Palantir. So let's listen to a little bit of this audio, again, courtesy of iHip News. Again, iHip News.
Donald Trump and his idiotic MAGA sycophants are going to do everything, and I mean everything in their power, to suppress the vote and cheat in the upcoming midterms. We're already seeing signs in Texas that it is a code blue alert. It is blue tsunami stuff happening down in the Lone Star State right now. The Democratic turnout is unbelievable. So the MAGA freakout is full blown right now. And an underreported story from the New Republic is giving us signs that we need to be taking this incredibly seriously. Seth, pop this up. The New Republic, Trump's ICE is quietly stockpiling weaponry, and it should alarm us all. So let's review here. He called Greg Abbott. Hey, I need for you to gerrymander. He's like, okay, no problem.
So we're going to get to the Hakeem Jeffries part. Here we go.
Supreme Court. So I want to look to the Democratic leadership. What are you going to do? How seriously are you taking this? Because this is something that is non-negotiable. Elections are non-negotiable. So let's see what the Democrats are going to do about it. DCCC rakes in millions from Palantir lobbyists as protests target the company's ICE surveillance tools. Oh, so you're telling me Hakeem Jeffries, they're taking money from Palantir, Alex Karp, and Peter Thiel, the coked up billionaires that don't pay taxes, that want to dismantle American democracy, and our opposition party is taking money from Palantir and feeding it to other Democrats? Are you serious right now? I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say it right now. Hakeem Jeffries is compromised and he needs to resign. Serious members of the Progressive Caucus have got to.
Now, she has been on the top of Hakeem Jeffries for a while. And as I've listened to Hakeem Jeffries go live and questions are hurled at him, it's the same, but his responses, at least from my observations, he's been a little bit on the defensive side, and I started to question myself, meaning question, is Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer compromised? I started having these feelings back when they were having discussions and these pseudo negotiations with the funding of DHS and ICE. But let's continue. Again, you can find this on iHip News.
Quit playing patty cake with this guy. He is a corporate dim through and through, and he is a fascist collaborator. There's no question that Chuck Schumer is as well, but we will not retain our democracy with the Democratic Party taking money from Palantir. We are not going to retain our country with the Democratic Party taking donations from AIPAC. let's look at it like this. Who did Palantir want to win as president of the United States? Trump. They wanted Trump to win so badly. Peter Thiel bought and purchased J.D. Vance and installed him because he's younger and more diabolical than Trump, because they do not want democracy anymore. But they're also so diabolical, they're controlling the opposition. We have paid, controlled corporate Dems. So every time you get on here and you watching the news and you want to pull your hair out, why aren't the Democrats doing anything? They're not doing anything because Representative Hakeem Jeffries takes money from Palantir and gives it to other candidates. And so here's an excerpt from this article. Pop this up. In January alone, January of 2026, last month, you guys, more than a dozen lobbyists with firms representing Palantir bundled a combined $2.9 million for the DC. The January haul from Palantir's lobbying firms represents 38% of the DCCC's total contributions for the month. The corporate Dems are in on it. The fix is in. This is, I don't want to hear from any progressive caucus member in the House that, oh, we support Hakeem Jeffries, because he doesn't support you. He is paid, controlled opposition, and we have to open up our eyes and be completely clear-eyed about this. I get no joy. I do not like this. I don't like the fact that the Democratic Party has shifted so much. They care more about Palantir than they do about American workers. And the lie with that is just so, it's even more diabolical, because at least we know Trump's a piece of shit. But the Democrats, at least get in front of a camera and say, we're going to service Palantir first, and we're going to service AIPAC first. We'll get to the people later. We'll throw in some harm reduction measures to make you all feel better. This is utterly disgraceful.
So again, your thoughts and opinions on Hakeem Jeffries. Do you believe he has been compromised? Do you believe he and Chuck Schumer should step down immediately? We're going to take a few comments. Rich says, enough of the bought and paid for politicians. Kenneth says, this ish is exhausting. And Timothy says, our politicians have failed us in every way. Susie says, get AIPAC and Palantir out of our politics. Grab a couple more. Jean Charles says, AIPAC should have to register as a foreign agent. Hakeem needs to be primaried as well as Schumer. And Maple City says, Jeffries and Schumer are actively sabotaging the Democratic Party. Those were some very strong words, ladies and gentlemen. Your thoughts and opinions of the topics that we discussed so far today in this weekend review. Kash Patel, Don Lemon, Kilmar, Garcia, State of Address, and the preemptive airstrike. Again, your comments are certainly welcome here. And thank you all so much for tuning in to the weekend review. Everyone enjoy this beautiful, beautiful Saturday. Perhaps it's Sunday, depending upon where you are on the globe. And remember,
you got to win the midterms. Because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me. You got to win the midterms. Because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, I mean, they'll find a reason to impeach me.